Shabbat Shalom to everyone. What a beautiful day to be in the house of Yahweh, right? Who has such a Elohim as us that gives us all these righteous laws and to lift us up and give us the way into salvation and also give us the laws to live in his kingdom. Righteous laws. Well, Miketz is our Torah portion this week, and it's the word Miketz means at the end. So we may be talking about a lot of ends today, and I'm sure that all of us have pondered maybe end of life, maybe end of the world, maybe end of all the work that you're doing where you can retire, maybe end of all the harassment. So we can kind of look at all of that together. I'm going to begin with the Psalms this morning. Psalms 81, and as this is a special day, it's actually known as a high day. When you have when you have two Shabbats that fall together on the same day, that is a high Shabbat, high Sabbath. So we're talking about the new moon, and the importance of the new moon is that it's the beginning of a new month. Right? So unfortunately, in this world that has been led astray by the man of sin to believe and teach and be accepted throughout the world that the month begins whenever they just decided to lay it out. It's not has to do anything with the moon or the sun or any of those things that God placed in the heavens above, as it says in Genesis, that he placed those for signs and for seasons and for day and night and years and all these types of things. So, but unfortunately, man didn't accept those things from God and said, well, we just make our own calendar. We know better, so we'll just make it that way. So unfortunately, we're running afoul of God's plans for our life, and we get totally off the track when we follow man's laws, follow man's calendars, and these types of things. So, particularly, they see this time of the seasons that we're in, that some of the days that have been transformed from paganism and relabeled Christianity that have led man so far away from him. So we pray that as we begin to study and read, and all of you out there in the Facebook world that do research on these things, there's a lot of information out there that you can get from secular sources, and then, of course, from the scriptures themselves. So, going to begin with Psalms 81. Sing aloud unto Yahweh our strength. Make a joyful noise unto the Elohim of Jacob. Take our psalms and bring hither the timbrel, the pleasant harp with the psalmistry. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast days. Because if we don't know when the new moon is, then we don't know when all of God's feast days are, because they're regulated by the new moon. For this was a statute for Israel and a law of the Elohim of Jacob. Or do we follow the same Elohim that Jacob did? Maybe that's the question that we need to ask. Maybe that's the question we need to figure out. Are we truly following the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Or are we following some other God that's placed himself ahead of our Elohim, of our God? This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not. I removed his shoulder from the burden, and his hands were delivered from the pots. Thou callest in trouble, and I delivered thee. I answered thee in the secret place of thunder. I proved thee at the waters of Meribah. Hear, O my people, and I will testify unto thee, O Israel, if thou wilt hearken unto me. That's the question, isn't it? There shall no strange God be in thee, neither shalt thou worship any strange God. I am Yahweh thy Elohim, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Open thy mouth wide, and I will fill it. So if you're hungry for the word, hungry for understanding of Yahweh's ways, then open his words. And he says, I will fill your mouth with it. You don't have to chase something on the internet or look it up. It's here already written for us. But my people would not hearken to my voice, and Israel would none of me. So I gave them up unto their own hearts' lust, and they walked in their own counsels. Oh, that my people had hearkened unto me, and Israel had walked in my ways. I should soon have subdued their enemies and turned my hand against their adversaries. The haters of Yahweh should have submitted themselves unto him, but their time should have endured forever. He should have fed them also with the finest of the wheat and with honey out of the rock. Should I have satisfied them? Okay. Well, if you want to be fed out of that rock and the honey, then hearken unto his word. Follow his pathways that he has laid down from the very beginning of the world. So we're going to go into Miketz, Genesis 41:1, going through Genesis 44:17, and this may be not totally on that Torah portion, but there's things in it that there's many, many things to be seen in all of these Torah portions. They are not just dead history of some people that used to live a long time ago and that really doesn't have any bearing on our world today. No, it's history of us as a people. It's part of our history, okay? And those things happened on them for our examples. That's what it says in the New Covenant. It says for our examples that these things were done. These things were written. These things were put down. So the things that happened to our people should show us, and we should maybe learn from their mistakes and not make the same mistakes. This is Genesis 41:1. And it came to pass at the end, or Miketz, of 2 full years, that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine, and fat-fleshed, and they fed in a meadow. Kine meaning cattle, okay? And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and lean-fleshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke. I can imagine if you would have such a dream as this, that it would wake you up, and you would sit up and say, wonder what that means. Did I eat too much garlic last night, or what's going on here? So then he said, and he went to sleep, and he dreamed the second time. And behold, 7 ears of corn came up on one stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears, and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled. And he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants and put me in ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, and I and he. And we dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. In fact, they dreamed the same dream, didn't they? Basically. And there was there with us a young man, a Hebrew, a servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored into mine office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself, and he changed his raiment, and came in unto Pharaoh. Well, you know, Pharaoh was king of not only of Egypt, but basically king of the whole world at that time. He had the authority over many nations. So when you were summoned to the king, he hastily took a bath, shaved, and put on fresh clothes to appear in the presence of the king. So that's why that throughout the Torah, it talks about how that we are to appear. What is the protocol to appear before our King in heaven? Do we shed those garments of everyday life? Do we want to put on those garments that he has for us to put on? The garments of righteousness, Yeshua's righteousness, and to clean our life up physically, spiritually, in all ways. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou can understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, Yeah, I can do that. Not a problem. Because I did it back in those days, and I've had dreams all of my life since I was 17 years old. And I even dreamed about my mother and dad, that they would be obedient to me. Did he say that? No. It says, it is not in me. Elohim shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. How many times do we see that, though, a lot of these so-called evangelists and pastors and things that takes it upon themselves to interpret things, to interpret their dreams and people's dreams, when only the Father in heaven can interpret your dream, really. All right, going on, and it says, this is in Amos 3:1. It says, hear this word that Yahweh has spoken against you, O children of Israel. Can two walk together except they be agreed? Will a lion roar in the forest when he hath no prey? Will a young lion cry out of his den if he hath taken nothing? Can a bird fall in a snare upon the earth, whereas no gin is for him? Shall one take up a snare from the earth and have taken nothing at all? Shall a trumpet be blown in the city and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in the city and Yahweh hath not done it? It says, surely the sovereign Yahweh will do nothing, but he reveals his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. So, we saw this in our Torah portion not too far back when the angels in Yeshua appeared unto Abraham on his way to Sodom and Gomorrah, if you remember. And Yeshua says, the angels were talking, and they said, shouldn't we tell Abraham what is fixing to happen? And he did. And he told Abraham, he says, I'm going down to Sodom and Gomorrah and see what's going on and destroy those that are disobedient. And basically, you remember Abraham bargained with him. If there's only 30 and there's only 20 and there's only 10 and so on and so forth, righteous people will you save? And he said, sure. But we know that that didn't happen. There was not at least 10 people there. So the sovereign Yahweh does reveal what he has planned for mankind. A lot of it is revealed in the scriptures itself. Points forward to things that are to happen by using those things that happened in the past. Going back to Genesis 41:28, this is a thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What Elohim is about to do, he shows unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt. And the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by Elohim, and Elohim will shortly bring it to pass. So he gave him 2 dreams. He said, I'm going to tell you this is really going to happen. This is not something that can be bargained with, something that can be changed, okay? And we may wonder, well, why was he bringing about such a thing? Was it to destroy people? Was it to bring forth righteousness in the land? Or was it to break Egypt as the king of all of that area? What do you think that this was brought about for? Seemingly these people were doing very well and had a certain amount of freedom and so forth. But we learn later on that this doesn't last forever. But was it maybe to establish a nation? Yeah. To establish a nation within a nation, to bring forth his people together as a nation, because they had only been just tribes, basically. Not even really tribes, if you trace it all bound just to one family that had 12 sons, okay? But he's going to take these people and make a great nation out of them. To show the power of Elohim, really. That's where it points back to. So we're going to read some other things. This is in Amos 8:11. And maybe see how this would fit with our day. Or does it have anything to do with us? Is it just something that happened back there and it probably won't happen? Or we've seen a lot of famines throughout the world and it didn't really set up nations and it didn't do very much. Amos 8:11. Behold, the days come, saith yet sovereign Yahweh, that I will send a famine in the land. Not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of Yahweh. Well, that's a big, big, big statement, isn't it? From hearing the words of Yahweh, you think, how in the world could that ever happen? With all of the televangelists out there and the TVs and internets and all of these types of things, just turn it on and it won't take you very long that you'll hear all kinds of things being prophesied and talked about and of God's word and so on and so forth. But I wonder if maybe it has to do with the true understanding of the word. Maybe that's the difference. Because there is many voices out there. Who are we going to listen to? Who are we going to follow? What are we going to understand and where are we going to get our daily bread? Because he says it will be not a famine of bread or thirst, but he also says that he is the bread from heaven, right? And if you'll come to me, I'll give you waters that you'll never thirst again. So, something to ponder. And they shall wander from sea to sea, from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of Yahweh, and shall not find it. In that day shall the fair virgins and young men faint for thirst. They that swear by the sin of Samaria, and say, Thy Elohim, O Dan, lives, and the manner of Beersheba lives, even they shall fall and never rise up again. Interesting thing that we're looking at here. Is that something maybe that we will see in our lifetime? I think so. If we're truly living in the last days, there's a lot of things that point to that. It says this is in Hosea 6:1. Come and let us return unto Yahweh, for he hath torn, and he will heal us. He has smitten, and he will bind us up. After 2 days will he revive us. In the third day he will raise us up, and we will live in his sight. Now, what is he talking about? What 2 days, and what third day, and what does all this mean? We go on and read, Then shall we know, if we follow on to know Yahweh, his going forth is prepared as the morning, and he shall come unto us as the rain, as the latter and former rain upon the earth. Remember at the first of Miketz, there he says, And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years. We also can read in 2 Peter 3:8, But, beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with Yahweh as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. Yahweh is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but is long-suffering towards us, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. So how does this fit into this puzzle? To this thing that we're looking at after 2 days. He said, well, a day to the Father is as 1,000 years. So we're looking at 2,000 years here. After 2 days will he revive us. In the third day he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. So that's 2,000 years. Can we apply that? From the time of Yeshua, 2,000 years, in the third day, be at the end of the 6,000 years allotted to man. So if that is where this can be applied and this fits, then we're looking at something very close. We can look at, the crucifixion in somewhere around 30, some people say 34, but add 2,000 years to that, and you got the year about 2030. So just something to look at, something to really ponder on, if this really fits this time. Because he says that at the end of the 2 days, he would revive us in that third day. And we know that there is, a 7,000-year span of time that has been talked about throughout Scriptures. 6,000 years of man with sin, 1,000 years of the millennium, and then the 8,000th year of new beginning and the new earth made new Jerusalem coming and sitting down. So if all of these fit these numbers, and then we're within that time frame. He says he is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but is long-suffering towards us, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. So there is coming a time, though, that the judgment will fall, will happen. The time of repentance will be over. So fortunately, we live in the time of repentance. We live in the time of restitution of all things. That's what he says in Acts when he's talking about the Messiah. Is that he returned into heaven until the time of restitution of all things that have been taught since the foundation of the world. So those that believe that, well, that stuff was all done away with and has nothing to do with us, and we're living up here in a new time, yet he says that when he returns, he's going to restore all the way back to the Garden of Eden. All of the things that he had taught, all of the things that he had, laws and things that he had put in. So you can have the privilege of living and understanding those things that were taught from the foundation even today, and not have to wait till then, because it's in his scriptures. And he has promised us that he will restore everything as it was, including the Garden of Eden and that tree of life that will stand in the midst of the new Jerusalem to provide us everlasting life. Going on and reading in Psalms 90, for 1,000 years in thy sight are but as yesterday when it is past, and as a watch in the night. So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. So that's what this has been all about. That's what even Solomon talked about, that you're a short period of time upon this earth. Your life is just a vapor. It says 1,000 years, though, in the sight of Yahweh is as it was yesterday. So that we need to number our days, knowing that we have a short period of time in our life to obtain the knowledge, the wisdom, and apply it to our lives in his truths and his laws that he has set for us. Going back to Genesis 41:46, and we see that Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt. 30 years. Well, we know that according to the record that he was 17 years old when his brothers put him in the pit. He spent several years in prison and so forth. So for about, 20 years? A little over 20 years? From a year of 17 years old. Why didn't God set him up a long time ago? Why did he have to go through all of this other stuff that wasn't his fault? But yet, maybe was it? I know that the sages say that the reason that he was thrown in the pit and so on and so forth was because of the Lashon Hara. Because you remember reading in that Torah portion where it says that basically he was a talebearer. He tattled on his brothers. Everything he saw them doing, he would go and tell his dad. And I'm sure maybe he embellished it maybe a little bit. Who knows? If you've had sibling rivalry, you know, particularly if you're the youngest, and I was youngest of three, so I know. So I'm sure that there was some reasons there that this fate happened upon him. We can look at the grand plan of things that, God wanted him down there for this particular reason and purpose, but also was he maybe working on his character? Was he refining those things that was against him? Even though that these were maybe trials to see how he would hold up. Can you imagine being accused of something that you didn't do, particularly the thing that he was accused of, and wind up in prison and nobody would listen to you? In fact, they beat him in first one thing and another. These maybe something like the trials that maybe we go through each day of our life? Or are you been totally blessed and not had trials and not had any problems? But he says, if the Father says that he chastises those that he loves, right? So, and it's for a reason, not just to hear you cry about it, but to hone your character. So we're going to look in Luke 3:21 and see maybe some comparisons of this man, Joseph. Now, when all the people were baptized, it came to pass that Yeshua also being baptized and praying, the heaven was opened. And the Holy Spirit descended in a bodily shape like a dove upon him. And a voice came from heaven which said, Thou art my beloved Son, in thee I am well pleased. And Yeshua himself began to be about 30 years of age. So that's a interesting thing that here we see Joseph being 30 when he became the viceroy, maybe the vice president of all of Egypt. In fact, the king gave him his ring and says, whatever you seal for me. Just like the Father said unto the Son, Yeshua, says, I am well pleased with you, and you are my beloved Son. So we see these comparisons, and we'll look at maybe a few more here. The comparisons of Joseph and Yeshua. Joseph was sold by his brothers, right, into Egypt by the Ishmaelites. So Yeshua was also sold for 30 pieces of silver, right, by his brothers. He became a suffering servant, Joseph did, because that's what his deal in life was. He was a servant unto Potiphar to start with. Then he became a servant in the prison, and then to Pharaoh. Doesn't Yeshua come as a suffering servant? He didn't come as that conquering king that they were looking for. He came as a suffering servant to them and to the world. Joseph was promised everything by Potiphar's wife, as only if you would come and do this, lay with me. Of course, we know that Satan promised Yeshua, took him up on the pinnacle and said, whatever you see out there, I can make it yours. He was beaten by Potiphar. Also, Yeshua was beaten by the Romans. And basically, he came to save his brothers. on both sides here. Because we see in the story as it goes on, when the brothers really realize who he is, they begin to be afraid, but they also begin to ask for forgiveness and we're sorry type things. And what did Joseph say to them? He says, it's not really you. God intended me to put me here for this reason and this purpose. Same thing that when Joshua says, if it was possible, take this from me. But he was there for a reason and a purpose. He was raised up on the third day. How about Joseph? He says, after 2 full years, on the third day, third year, he was raised up. So then, and this is not just the only place. There's many things throughout the Old Testament that points that his first coming will be as a suffering servant, but that he will eventually come as the son of King David to sit upon King David's throne and be that ruling king that they've been looking for. And just praise Yah that there's many people coming, even amongst the Jews, coming to this idea and accept him as the Messiah. Even though that there are Orthodox Jews that are still looking for that first coming as a warrior king, as the anointed one, because they have a different perspective of him. They say that he is the anointed one. So in other words, a man could be anointed to be that Messiah. Any man. They're not really looking for the Son of God to come. Going back to Genesis 41, 48. Says, and he gathered up all the food of the 7 years, which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities. The food of the field, which was round about every city, laid it up in the same. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea, very much, until he left numbering, for it was without number. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came. I don't know if did that jump out to you when you were reading this story? Or did you read over it and didn't think nothing about it? I think we've done that different times, that we read, and sometimes we'll read something and we'll say, well, now, was that in that last year? Was that in my Bible last year that I read? Yeah, it was there. It was the opening of our eyes and our ears to what really is going on and really what this is talking about. 2 sons were born before the years of famine. So it was during that 7-year period that he had 2 sons, that everything was good. It had more than they could ever want. It was Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bare unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh. For Elohim said, he hath made me forget all of my toil. That's what the name means, to forget all of my toil and all of my father's house. Well, if you're really searching for the Father, and when you find him and he gives you that rest, you forget the toil that you've been through. You're thankful for it. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for Elohim hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. Be fruitful. Are we being fruitful in the land of our affliction? That's maybe the question we need to ask. We have been living, I think, in this land of plenty, this time of plenty. Maybe it's a 7-year period, maybe. And then comes the end of the plenty and becomes the famine. You know, we could even maybe look at this thing with the prophecy in Daniel, the 70-week prophecy. Everybody likes to look at these weeks and that there is a week at the end and so on and so forth. But my understanding of that prophecy is that cutting off in the midst of the last week was the crucifixion of the Messiah. And that 3.5 years from his crucifixion reaches down to the stoning of Stephen. Basically, the end of plenteous time in that time. Because what happened after that? Jerusalem was destroyed. The temple was destroyed. People were scattered. And we know that all from that period on that Israel has really had a tough time. They've gone through many, many persecutions and many being expelled out of nations, going through the Holocaust, 6 million of them killed. Was maybe that a time of lean times, afflictions, famine? Just interesting, something to look at, because we know that these prophecies repeat themselves. Okay? So are we in a time, or looking at a time of famine? Famine of the word, maybe physical famine. We all have this feeling, I think just within the world in general, when you talk to people, most people have this feeling that something is going to happen. Something is coming. A lot of people don't know what, but they have this feeling of uneasiness that something is going to take place. That's the innate ability that's placed within all of God's creation. Because we know and seen these studies where the animals, when there's fixing to be a real something really happen, they get real restless and they begin to move. And they begin sometimes to move away from what they perceive as danger. So that's the ability that we're created with. The awareness of our surroundings, the awareness of what's going on. And if we have dampened that in our minds, and if we have said, well, there is no God, so don't worry about it. Everything's fine. That's, it's been this way forever. Thousands of years it's been this way. People have been talking about the end of the world for millenniums. My granddad and his granddad and their granddad. So we have dulled our innate ability to see and feel that there is something coming that we need to prepare ourselves for. So we're going to look at some things. Are we preparing for that famine that's coming? And I know it's a good thing to store a little bit of water, a little bit of food, these types of things, but we can't depend upon that for our salvation. We can only depend upon Jehovah for our salvation, because he is going to prepare a way for your salvation. We're going to read in Acts 15:14. Simon hath declared how Elohim at the first did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name. And to this agree the words of the prophet, as it is written. We can find that in Hosea and other places, right? He will have a people that was not a people. After this, I will return and will build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down, and I will build again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up, that the residue of men might seek after the sovereign, and all the Gentiles upon whom my name is called, saith Yahweh, who doeth all of these things. Known unto Elohim are all of his works from the beginning of the world. That's what we talked about before, right? He knows all this stuff from the beginning to end. He knows how it's supposed to work out. How that he's calling the Gentiles, calling the nations. In reality, those people and nations are descendants of the tribes of Israel. That is the call. That is the stirring of the Spirit that we are seeing around us all the time. Even here this morning when they were given the testimony of going to this church, a Sunday-keeping church, and yet these people were talking about, well, I was thinking about keeping the Sabbath, the Shabbat. I was thinking about, man, I've been reading about those feasts. That's a stirring of the Spirit, my friends. Amen. 1 Corinthians 6:19. What? Know you not that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, which is in you, which you have of Yahweh, and you are not your own? If you hadn't figured that out yet, you're going through a lot of trials for nothing. If you think that you're in control and that I can do this on my own, God, I got this. I know you're really busy, so I got this. No. We are not our own. It says, for you are bought with a price. Therefore honor Elohim in your body. Even so hath the Master ordained that they which preach the good news should live of the good news. Wow. That's a big old mouthful, isn't it? I wonder how many preachers out there that we see. Are they living the good news that they preach? Are they walking in the truth? If so be you have tasted that Yahweh is good, to whom coming as unto a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of Yahweh and precious. Ye also as lively stones are built up a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices, acceptable to Yahweh by Yeshua the Messiah. Yeah. Wherefore also it is contained in the Scriptures. Behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect and precious, and he that believeth on him shall not be confounded. Looking at Jeremiah 17:5. Thus saith Yahweh, cursed be the man that trusts in man, and make flesh his arm, and whose heart departs from Yahweh. For he shall be like the hearth in the desert, and shall not see when good comes, but shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, in a salt land and not inhabited. Blessed is the man that trusts in Yahweh, and whose hope is in Yahweh. For he shall be as a tree planted by the waters, and that spreads out her roots into the river, and shall not see when heat comes, but her leaf shall be green. And shall not be careful in the year of the drought, neither shall cease from yielding fruit. So you want to be one of those trees that are planted on the banks of the river that's getting its substance from the tree of life. And the tree of life is God's word. His Torah is the tree of life. So we cannot trust in man. Don't trust in any man. Trust in Yahweh. Going on in Jeremiah 17, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, Yahweh, search your heart. I try your reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. So it sounds like he's a fruit inspector. He's a USDA fruit inspector that comes around and looks at your fruit and says, oh, man, I don't know about this one right here. It's kind of rotten. We can't put the USDA stamp on that one. It'll never make it to the market, you know. A throne of honor on high from the beginning is the place of our sanctuary. O Yahweh, the hope of Israel, all that forsake thee shall be ashamed, and they that depart from me shall be written in the earth. Wow. Because they have forsaken Yahweh, the fountain of living waters, written in the earth. Wow. What does that really mean, I wonder? Written in the earth. Maybe that you will die and return to the ground. Return to the earth and never be resurrected, maybe. Maybe you'll go through that second death and you will be in the earth and in the ground and not see life. Could be. It says, heal me, O Yahweh, and I shall be healed. Save me, and I shall be saved, for thou art my praise. Behold, they say unto me, where is the word of Yahweh? Let it come now. As for me, I have not hastened from being a pastor to follow thee, neither have I desired the woeful day. Thou knowest that which came out of my lips was right before thee. Wow. That's a big, broad statement. If we have Yeshua dwelling within, the words that come out is his words. It's what's come out of my lips was right before you. Be not a terror unto me, thou art my hope in the day of evil. Let them be confounded that persecute me, but let not me be confounded. Let them be dismayed, but let not me be dismayed. Bring upon them the day of evil, and destroy them with double destruction. The prophet that hath a dream, let him tell a dream, and he that hath my word, let him speak my word faithfully. What is the chaff to the wheat, saith Yahweh? What is the chaff to the wheat? In other words, all of those dreamers out there that are dreaming about all these crazy things and said, I got a dream from God, and he told me this, and he told me that. If it doesn't line up to the word, it's just like chaff to the wheat. And what happens to the chaff? It's burned. It blows away in the wind. When they winnow the wheat, throw it up, it blows away. He said, don't worry about it. You speak my word faithfully. Says, is not my word like as a fire, saith Yahweh, and like a hammer that breaks the rock in pieces? So don't worry about all those crazy things that are being said and done and saying that God gave me this dream and this is this and this and this. Because his word will burn it as chaff. Take his hammer and break the rock in pieces. And if you notice, that is a small r. It's not capitalized big letter R, rock. Who is our rock? Jehovah is our rock. Remember, it says the rock that they followed in the desert was Yeshua. Well, have we spent our time already? I didn't look at the time when we started. Nothing but time. Jeremiah 24:7. And I will give them a heart to know me, that I am Yahweh, and they shall be my people, and I will be their Elohim, for they shall return unto me with their whole heart. There's the There's the problem. Sometimes we say, well, we give him our heart, but do we give him our whole heart? Do we reserve a little spot for things that we want to do and say and act? Behold, O Elohim, our shield, and look upon the face of thine anointed. For a day in thy courts is better than 1,000. I had rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my Yahweh than to dwell in the tents of wickedness. Amen. Just to be a doorkeeper. Wow. For Yahweh Elohim is a sun and shield. Yahweh will give grace and honor. No good thing will be withheld from them that walk uprightly. O Yahweh of hosts, blessed is the man that trusts in you. Psalm 78:1. Maskell of Aspa. Interesting, this name. We're going to read about it here in just a second. Aspa. I don't know if you really look at the topic on Psalms sometimes. We take kind of for granted that all the Psalms were written by David, and that's not correct. This man right here wrote many. And this man right here, his name itself, and I'll read it, means collector. He collected all the Psalms that David wrote and put them together. It says, give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old, which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. We will not hide them from our children, showing to the generations to come the praises of Yahweh and his strength and his wonderful works that he hath done. Is this being done? Not really. In the world, 3/4 of their life, for the first 17 years of their life, they're being indoctrinated with truths that are totally wrong, totally against God's word and laws. They're teaching our children. Are they teaching our children what God has done in our history and all these things? No, they're not teaching that. For he established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers that they should make them known to their children, that the generations to come might know them, even the children which should be born, who should arise and declare them to their children, that they might set their hope in Elohim and not forget the works of El, but keep his commandments, and might not be as their fathers, a stubborn, rebellious generation, a generation that set not their hearts aright, and whose spirit was not steadfast with Elohim. Wow. You know, that was the very thing that Elohim said about Abraham. The main reasons that he chose Abraham. He says, because I knew that he would teach his children the laws. This name, Asaph, means, in the Hebrew, means collector, together for a purpose, to put all together, to recover. He is the man that collected and gathered together all of David's psalms and wrote some of his own psalms as well. So if you look at the top right up there, and the interesting part is these psalms are written to the psalmstress. In other words, he has written these things as a songwriter, given them to the one that will sing it. These are songs that were sung in the temple. Psalms 51. O Yahweh, open thou my lips, and my mouth shall show forth thy praise. For thou desirest not sacrifice, else would I have given it. Thou delightest not in burnt offerings. The sacrifices of Elohim are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O Elohim. Thou wilt not despise. From the very get-go, he didn't want sacrifice. From the very beginning, he wanted a broken and contrite heart. Sacrifices of our lips, the praise of our lips. Psalms 37:7, rest in Yahweh and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him whose purpose is in his way, because of the man who brings wicked devices to pass. Cease from anger. Forsake wrath. Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil. Just that very first cease from anger. That's a tough job in itself. If you think you've conquered your anger, it will snap on you just like that. But that's something that we have to work on daily. For evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon Yahweh, they shall inherit the earth. For yet a little while, and the wicked shall not be. Yea, thou shalt diligently consider his place, and shall not be. But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. Man, that's what everybody wants. Peace, 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 right? But there is no peace. That's what Yeshua said. There will be no peace until he comes and brings peace. If we're looking for man for peace, it'll never happen. This world has been in total chaos and war since the Tower of Babel, basically. I have been young, and now I am old, yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, or his seed begging bread. So what are you worrying about? He is ever merciful and lends, and his seed is blessed. Depart from evil and do good, and dwell forevermore. For Yahweh loves judgment, and forsake not his saints. They are preserved forever, but the seed of the wicked shall be cut off. The righteous shall inherit the land, and dwell therein forever. The mouth of the righteous speaks wisdom, and his tongue talks of judgment. The law of his Elohim is in his heart, and none of his steps shall slide. That's what it's all about on the new covenant, right? He will put his laws into your heart. But we have to allow him to, right? Something that we have a choice. Says, this is Psalms 34, says, what man is he that desires life and loves many days that he may see good? Keep thy tongue from evil and thy lips from speaking guile. Always comes back to this little old member in here. Depart from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. The eyes of Yahweh are upon the righteous, and his ears are open unto their cry. The righteous cry, and Yahweh hears and delivers them out of all their troubles. Yahweh is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart, and save such as be of a contrite spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but Yahweh delivers them out of them. So if you get weary of afflictions, you're going to be tried, but Yahweh delivers you out of them. You know, keep thy tongue from evil. You know, we were talking about Joseph, maybe why that he got into so many problems that he was into. Maybe his tongue got him into a lot of problems. Maybe he spoke ill of his brothers, lashon hara, of different things and different people. And God says, okay, I've got to get that out of this boy. So I'm going to give you a lot of afflictions maybe. But in the end, I'm going to deliver you out of them all. Psalms 32. This is in closing. Psalms 32:1, a psalm of David, Mashal. Blessed is he whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. Blessed is the man unto whom Yahweh imputes not iniquity, and in whose spirit there is no guile. But if we walk in the light, as he is in the light, we have fellowship one with another, in the blood of Yeshua the Messiah, his Son, cleanses us from all sin. If we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. That's what it says in Hebrews, right? Talks about our high priest, Yeshua. He says he ever liveth to make intercession for sin. Without him as our advocate, then we don't have a prayer, basically. If we say that we have not sinned, we make him a liar, and his word is not in us. Yet, we're being taught that the law has been done away with or changed. If it has, then what is sin? Sin, the biblical definition of sin, is the transgression of God's law. So if you're without law, then you're without sin, sounds like, right? That's what's being taught. Psalms 15:1, a psalm of David. Yahweh, who shall abide in thy tabernacle? Who shall dwell in thy holy hill? He that walks upright and works righteousness and speaks the truth in his heart. He that backbites not with his tongue, nor does evil to his neighbor, nor takes up a reproach against his neighbor, in whose eyes a vile person is condemned, but he honors them that fear Yahweh. He that swears to his own hurt and changes not. He that puts not out his money to interest, nor takes rewards against the innocent. He that does these things shall never be moved. What a beautiful promise all of the Psalms are. You can spend your whole days just reading the Psalms itself and basking in the vast wisdom and knowledge and the love of our Father and our Savior. I just hope that this may give you hope and give you a newness of heart to search your heart, pull out of those things that offend God and our fellow man, and that we will stand at Miketz at the end before that great final judgment and hear the words, thou good, well done, thy good and faithful servant. Enter you in. So Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Thank you for watching a teaching from Emet HaTorah. If you are ever in the Odessa area, we would love to welcome you to our Shabbat service, 11 a.m. every Sabbath. For more information or for more teachings, feel free to find us on the web, www.emethatorohodessa.com. Also, you can find us on Facebook. Thank you. God bless you and your family. Shalom.